Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session um, on what is the topic name? I went blank. Okay, yeah. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session on the love that gets lost and found in parenting. I want to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous people as the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather for today's event. I'm currently on the traditional land of the Naruk clan of the Boon Wurrung people who are a part of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to elders past and present and emerging. A few housekeeping rules before we start the session. This session is being recorded, so please put your phones on silent and feel free to put your questions in the chat box, and we'll get to them once the session is complete. Okay, so now my name is Tribly Dsouza, and I'm the founder of Nino Mondo. Nino Mondo is a support platform for mothers juggling new motherhood and balancing career and well-being. And I'm excited to welcome our guest today, Katy Bampton. Katy is an intimacy coach and relationship therapist, and she has worked with countless couples to bring more meaning and love back into their relationship. And she helps couples come back home to each other through coaching, intensive healing experiences, and hands on workshops. And she also helps with relationship building practices that go way beyond surface level solutions. So, Katy, thank you so much for being here today. We are really excited to offer this experience to our community.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's great. And I'm excited to, bring some juice and bring some intimacy practices for those couples in your world, in your community.
Thank you. So, today we are exploring just that, something that many parents, especially new parents, feel but rarely say out loud. And that's about the emotional distance that can grow between spouses or partners once children enter the picture. And that's why we're calling this program The Love That Gets Lost and Found in Parenting. So, are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely.
All right. First question. Now, with parenting or new parenthood, there is a huge surge of emotions that both the couple, like people in a relationship, face. And there's a different kind of closeness. There's a shared purpose and they're co-parenting. But at the same time, couples also feel more distant or disconnected because of, the whole responsibility that comes in by becoming new parents. Can you help understand why does that happen and what is the root cause other than the child?
Yeah, it's like you want to think the parents before they've had children, there is so much more time. So there is time for emotional intimacy, there is time for physical connection. And then when a child comes along, that kind of takes a back seat or at certain phases disappears because the priority is the child. It's natural, especially for a mother, to have the child as a number one priority. And then with a child as number one priority, this can bring, changes in hormones, stress to the relationship, to the workloads, everything that's going on. And we kind of constantly, unconsciously shift from, okay, I'm in a relationship, I'm a husband, I'm a wife, to I'm a caregiver. And then we get with just life that goes on, we kind of get caught in that I'm the caregiver and we forget about what we were previously. But a way that I kind of like to share this and for couples to understand a bit deeper is if you look at the seasons, spring, summer, autumn, winter. In summer, there's so much love, there is so much juice happening, there's so many flowers. In winter, it's cold, it's more internal, it's a bit deeper and darker. And in relationships, especially with children as well, this is what happens. So it's like noticing that it's not wrong, but just, okay, this is part of the human experience, but we're aware that this is happening. How can we bring notions of summer and spring and put them into our winter so that intimacy can still be there outside of, being the caregiver and the parent?
Ooh, that's, I really like that analogy of seasons.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a good one.
Yeah, it is that, how can you bring those? I don't know, like it's like having an aircon in your room. Like in summer, you have an aircon on, to feel cool. And in winter, you have the aircon on to feel the heat. So maybe it's on those lines, to bring
Yeah.
in a little bit of summer. Thank you. That's good. So now that you mentioned about, how can you bring in those seasons, um, can you get into a little more detail on how can people actually do that? Like how can couples navigate that shift and bring in a little bit more intimacy after kids?
Of course, and I call it the micro moments. So when we're in a relationship, it's kind of normal to go and spend 2 hours at a dinner date. It's normal to spend 3 hours at Netflix. It's normal to spend a weekend away or a week's holiday. That's like looking at, larger time frames and larger time scales. Then how from those experiences and those enjoyments can you take away those micro moments? So I use a holiday, for example. What is it about the holiday? Is it the weather? Is it the time off? Is it the freedom? And then implementing a little bit of that into that time, such as maybe freedom and holiday. So depending of obviously where the parents are at and the age range, is that the freedom and that time and the connection together? Is that booking a babysitter for an hour? Is that asking your parents for help just so that 30 minutes or that 1 hour can be focused on the relationship and on the intimacy? And I'll go into deeper into some specific exercise in a second, rather than couples thinking that they need a week's holiday or a whole, that whole time frame when you can just say, okay, I just want an hour just to cuddle with my partner. I just want to lay next to him. I just want him to stroke my hair. That really can, it's like the micro moments of the day that we can implement in whilst, after children.
And you mentioned that you want to do an exercise. So is there something that you have in mind?
Yeah, so one of the first, my favorite exercises, and it's something that can get really overlooked, is the I love you exercise. And so for couples in the time when they've got their time together, maybe the baby is down, maybe the kids are in after school club, you've got a half an hour or an hour together. It's so common these days that couples or we all sit there scrolling on our phones. Instead of that time when you're scrolling on the phone and becoming disconnected, how can we implement that? And with the I love you exercise is I get my clients to take 5 minutes. So putting a timer for 5 minutes on your phone and simply taking it in turns to repeat, one thing I love about you is. And so just person is thinking, feeling, okay, what do I love about my partner? And the more that you do this, repeating for the 5 minutes, you will notice all the love, all the joy, all those yummy honeymoon moments that you've forgotten about come up back through in your feelings. And you will gradually notice that your emotional connection has been built in this 5 minutes. And you don't need always that 3 hours or that week's holiday. And so that the mini micro moments, what I'd share there is the I love you exercise.
Now, I have a question to that. It's, because it's overwhelming to become like when you become new parents or once you get into that caregiving role, you forget. And there are times when you forget that, okay, we created these rituals, but we are not following through with those rituals. So how does one mitigate that? That, okay, we decided that every day or once a week we'll do these micro moments. What is your
Of
advice?
course. Yeah, and like we got to look at it, work, schedules, appointments, dentists, the pets, we schedule in our life, we schedule in times. Why can't we schedule time for the relationship? The relationship is so important that if your relationship is crumbling away, everything else in your life is going to be crumbling away. And so with my clients, I often get them to set in one time of the week, whether that's a morning, an evening, or wherever fits into their schedule, and putting this into their schedule. And no matter what, how someone is feeling or whatever is going on, maybe something happened with the kids and it pushes you back half an hour, that's fine, but you have to commit to your relationship and this intimate time. I just use my recent clients, for example, every Thursday, it's their time. So when the kids go to bed, and there is moments when they have put the kids to bed and like, oh, I'm just so tired, I don't want to do this. But they remind each other that they are here in a relationship to work through this. So no matter how tired you are, do we want to let tiredness just run us over? Or can we give that 5 minute exercise, which is then going to boost you on the other side? So within that, it's really about setting in and scheduling time for your intimacy in your relationship. Because if you didn't schedule in and go to work, then we wouldn't be working. If you didn't schedule time for the dentist, you wouldn't be going. So we need to be scheduling that time for the relationship and that connection.
That is food for thought. You know why? Because you said if your relationship crumbles, everything else crumbles. If you lose a job, you're fine. You come home to your partner and you go, look, I lost my job. And your partner will go, no problem, you'll find another job. You're not that heartbroken. But if your relationship is crumbling, like you said, everything else crumbles. But we don't realize that. And the other mindset which I picked from what you said is where people say, oh, this relationship is so much work. But if you don't put the work in the relationship, it's not going to work and you may not have a relationship. So that mindset shift that I have to work, keep working at this relationship is important. And yes, because sometimes people also think that, oh, scheduling, will the scheduling take romance out of my relationship? How do you manage that when people see it as a to do rather than I don't know what other word I can use, but how like how do you shift that mindset where people don't see it as a to do?
And there's pros and cons to it, but if you're not scheduling it, or you look at your calendar, look at your life, where is your intimacy? And that's like it comes when you're scheduling it, it doesn't need to be with scheduling in sex. It doesn't have to be that because, especially for a woman's body, she can't be said, okay, at 6 o'clock, I'm going to be ready to go. So, in that time, when you're scheduling time for intimacy and connection just in the relationship. Generally, when you connect together, let's say we've got an hour, the first 5, 10 minutes might be doing one of those micro exercises. By then, your body is going to start to relax, and naturally, your body will feel safe, you'll feel open, and you will want to connect with your partner. So it's about taking the frame off the table of like, okay, this is taking something away from us. It's actually nourishing us, and it's actually adding to the relationship. And in a way of like I said previously, you schedule the appointments, you schedule the vet, you schedule the holidays. The relationship needs time for that connection to be built. And it's probably about shifting your mindset in a way of, okay, what if I'm scheduling time for my relationship and this is work? Why am I thinking that this is negative? Why do I not want to schedule this time? Why am I feeling like this? And then when you can actually ask yourself this question, you'll be like, oh yeah, it's because you know what, my relationship's just like fizzled away a little bit and I just don't want to be putting that time in. Well, then that's the bigger issue to look at within your level of relationship. It's not the time, it's actually how you're feeling in the relationship. And that's what I said. When we let that diminish and fade away, the disconnection, the resentment, that's when that happens.
So that's a good point. So my question to you now is that how do we ask what we need without resentment? Because sometimes people who've been in a relationship, let's say they've married or they're now in a live-in relationship, they're committed, and pre-kids, everything was hunky-dory. But after kids, they're like, why can't my partner just get it? And that leads to unmet needs. So how do you ask for that without resentment or without sounding resentful?
Yeah. One exercise I'm going to share, and this works for both men and women. I work with my clients, and this is the moment that they feel that they can't speak up or can't ask for their needs, I get them to stand in front of a mirror and to look at themselves in front of the mirror and just share, hey, I really need this, or I would really appreciate this. And what this does is starting to train the mind and body to be able to communicate. And so when they got a lot more comfortable with asking, so I need da da da, I want da da da, I would like. When you get comfortable with using these words in front of yourself in the mirror, naturally, more repetitions over time, you'll feel a lot more comfortable when you're asking this in the relationship. So that would be the first step. And then within that, that's where we have those micro moments. It's like that one time a week where we're having that check in. And I always bring it up in the two ways. So, having I need and I appreciate. And so we are voicing our needs. So we're allowing ourselves to be seen, to own what we want. We're all human beings. And then the second one is have that appreciation. So it's, finding that balance. When we tell our partner what we appreciate about them, they can understand what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and then they can do more of that. And it's finding that balance between both. And then I like to look at that in the, I guess, the way expressing your needs is like, for so many, we go through life people pleasing, not saying what we want, and we kind of just like walk on eggshells because we're afraid of. But the feeling that diminishes our body and makes us feel sticky when we're people pleasing or walking on eggshells, would we rather feel that? Or would we rather have an uncomfortable conversation that can then lead to more intimacy, to more pleasure, and to more joy? So it's about first thing warming yourself up, your mind and body into the mirrors. Like, okay, I can do this. I've got this. I've said this 100 times in front of the mirror. Okay, go to my partner. I'm really struggling to have this conversation right now, but I'm trying my best. I need such and such. Or just the way they say it, the way you say it, it's like it would really help me this week if you. And when we allow ourselves to express ourselves that this feels uncomfortable, this is not normal to us, we kind of make love with that part of us that feels intimidated, that feels a little bit like hidden. Because the moment that we stop communicating, we stop showing up, we start assuming that the other person knows. And when we start going down that rabbit hole of assuming, then that's when the relationship really goes on opposite ways.
That is profound. That is truly profound. I'm speechless, actually. Um, because when I look back at my relationship as a new mother with my partner, he was doing everything, and yet I was like, oh, it's because we were not getting time, and we were not even able to communicate. And that's probably a segue to my next question: is communication is important, but it sometimes becomes hard to communicate. So as much as we do this exercise, but and that assumption probably plays a role there where we feel that the other person is not going to understand. Are there any other ways or techniques that you recommend where people are not comfortable expressing, and no matter how many times they practice, it doesn't feel natural to them? Is there any other workaround that you can recommend?
Absolutely, yeah. And communication is definitely a big one of mine. I am British, but I have dated Norwegians, Hungarians, Australians, French. And one thing that has been a common denominator is speaking different languages. And so with my experience, like communication is literally the bread and butter to relationships. And that's not just romantic relationships, that's, work colleagues, um, friendships, different kinds of relationships in the play, in your workplace as well, how you can build that. So when you start building that skill, you will notice in every other area of your life, then it can just get better. And I like to approach this in the way of noticing if this was your child, if this was your little girl, your little boy, and she or he was feeling uncomfortable, she didn't know how to speak up, well, how would you support her? What questions would you ask her, and how would you like support that relationship to feel for allowing her or him to feel safe so they can use their words? And whatever you would do for your child in that relationship or in that dynamic, can you do that then to yourself? Such as, okay, I don't want to communicate. I was like, okay, if this was my daughter, I don't have children just yet, but if this was my daughter, it's like, it's okay. How are you feeling? Mummy is here to support you. And just talk like that to yourself. What am I feeling right now? Okay, I'm feeling a little bit anxious because last time we had this conversation, it didn't go the right way. Okay, am I basing my assumptions on the past? And is this going to happen now? And just having a lot more compassion and being kind to yourself. Then when the anxiety or that tension or that uncomfortable feelings comes up, name it. I'm feeling so anxious right now and I just need to cry or I just need a hug. When what that does is kind of like releases that emotion that's gone, that can move through as like, oh, that cry just made me feel so much better. And what I really wanted to communicate was like, I was quite annoyed that you didn't take the bins out the other day, but I just didn't know how to tell that to you.
Hmm. That's communication is a hard thing, because it doesn't come naturally to everybody. And even the words, right? So firstly, the words don't come out, and what comes out may not necessarily be the right kind of words. So there's work that has to happen. So just to summarize what you said is there is time that we as individuals need to take to work on the relationship. And as part of working for the relationship, there's communication that needs to happen with us first as to what I want to communicate, what are the words, and then practice it, and then go to a partner and approach it. And I think that is what can build a segue into those micro moments, because suddenly you say, "Oh, let's have micro moments," and they'll be like, "What happened to you?"
Yeah.
Are you feeling all right?
And that's the thing is just like when where both partners in the relationship are committed and they was like, okay, we want to work on this. Maybe one won't be thinking about that, but they was like, oh, let's implement some of our micro moments and our check-ins. And this is going to like boost that. And I just want to add there on the level of communication as well. It's like always speaking from I. It's very easy to start projecting like you didn't do this, you didn't take the bins out, you, when really we can communicate from a space of I. I am feeling. And what this does is allows us to communicate and allows us to feel. And some of my clients, they sit there like, but I don't even know what I'm feeling. And this is the moment to be like, okay, why am I not feeling? And how can I communicate that through open communication and open curiosity is the word that I would love to throw in there as well. Instead of like holding on to attachments, get curious. Okay, I'm not in my partner's mind. He doesn't know what I like. He doesn't know what I'm feeling. Okay, let's get curious about this. Ask questions over than feeling, okay, this is like my fault in a way.
So we've touched upon communication being the base. We've touched upon practice on how to communicate. We've touched upon the fact that we have to say, I am feeling like this, rather than projecting or blame our partner and assuming. Clearly, we shouldn't be assuming. We've touched upon scheduling micro moments. But there is this underlying factor, sometimes I feel, which is guilt. And it could play both ways, wherein um, a new mother could feel that because the baby is here, I'm not able to give time because I'm also exhausted. I have not responsibility or duty, but I can't think of a better word right now, but some kind of obligation to my partner. And even, the partner, may it be a man or female, might think that um, even though I have not given birth to the baby, but I have this duty and responsibility, but I'm not able to do everything as much as you're doing. And I think that stems from guilt. So
Mm.
how do you manage that? How have you helped your clients manage that and still thrive in their relationship?
Absolutely, and it's such a common one. So the guilt can show up in all angles. So it can be the mother feeling guilty that she's not always there for her child, and like the mother feeling guilty that if she's always with her child, that she's not with her partner. And I think like the baselines to it, the child wouldn't be here without the partner. Okay, it takes two to have created that baby. And so without that, the child wouldn't be here. And I like to use this phrase in a way of reframing the way women especially see guilt, because like I said, without the partner, they wouldn't have been here. So it's like, how can I understand that in my mind? And then when we feel into the body, and I always get my clients to feel, is this a sticky feeling of guilt in my chest, or is this a sticky feeling of guilt in my tummy? And just as like, okay, this is in my chest, so this is obviously my heart. In the tummy is the gut. So is it my heart that's feeling a little bit guilty, or is it kind of my gut? And if it's the heart, so it's like, okay, probably just want to kind of come in for a little bit more love. Who will that be? And if it's our gut, that can be often a moment, especially for women, is like, okay, I know I need to balance now the logic of feeling guilt and the logic of like if I don't work on my relationship then it's going to dwindle away, and that's what we feel from the gut. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's about feeling the guilt. Is it the chest? Is it the stomach? Is it the tummy? Then with that, it's having just honesty. So the more within my clients is the more I see that clients are communicating, they're saying, I feel guilty. I feel like I shouldn't be doing this. The more they are actually using the I am statements that we spoke about before, they start easing the mind, then starts easing the body. And in a way of what are we feeling guilty about not having time for our partners or the children? Are we feeling guilty, like especially for a woman? I think I'd love to add this in here. A woman's body naturally changes so much after children. And a big disconnect that I see is like the men don't really understand this. And so that guilt that the woman is feeling potentially of not giving that intimacy or connection to her partner, instead, can we educate him? Can we let him know how the woman feels to reduce that guilt? The more, I guess this also comes back to communication, but and noticing and allowing yourself to have that self-care because you are a human. We have branches offers, but that comes back to self.
I'm going to touch on two points which you mentioned here. One is the reframing aspect, because a lot changes before and after child. So, and you did, sort of mention it that we have to reframe it. So I want to get into a little more detail on what is your recommendation on reframing this new relationship? Because now they're not just two people, there are three, sometimes four if there are twins and more. But let's say the bell curve has normally three people, the mother, father, mother, mother, father, father, or child. How do you recommend that this new family unit see their relationship?
Yeah. One of the one of the big thing that comes up in the reframing it is like looking at, okay, me spending time with my partner and not my child or vice versa isn't selfish. It's more so sustainable for a long-term window. It's kind of like, you've got to keeping your batteries going, keeping the batteries charging. But instead of I want to bring this across in a smooth way. It's understanding what matters the most to you and why, and the guilt then appears in different levels. So if spending time with your partner is pleasurable, is luxury, is inviting, are you now feeling that those are bad things? And this is reframing that is not selfish. That is me giving to my relationship, to my body, to my intimacy, which then when that relationship is healthy and happy, that's when that the longer term becomes sustainable. And taking that time out doesn't like diminish what we've got already. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I like that fact that you said it's like charging your batteries. So, when you come together, you spend that intimate moment together, you spend time communicating with each other. It is like charging the battery of a relationship. And and of course I can vouch for it, because that has a ripple effect on how you engage with your child also. You're much more happier, pleasant, and it is a relaxation moment, right? When you spend time with your partner. So that definitely has a ripple effect on how you interact with your child. And the children can feel that their parents are happy. Otherwise, the tension is always brewing in the back. Um,
I think like another one that I can add in there as well is like having we often think like time away from our child or time away from our partner is like a bad thing. But reframing that in a way of time away is time well spent. So the time away from my child is still a healthy time with my partner. And the time away from my partner with my child is obviously vice versa. And look at it in a way of like, it was only 10 minutes, but that 10 minutes was so amazing. And I'm so glad we had that 10 minutes rather than sitting in that loop of like, oh my God, I shouldn't be doing this. Because the more that we sit in worry and the more that's when the anxiety comes. And it's not helping anyone at the end of the day. It's about feeling into that guilt and reframing it. So then the next time it happens, like I've got 10 minutes to spend with my partner and I'm going to make sure this is the best 10 minutes. And then in 10 minutes, I go back to my baby or my child, whether that's an hour, and just reframing it. It's like time away, but time well spent. Because you've got to be somewhere. We've got to be placing our time somewhere. It's just like choosing
correct.
how you put it.
That's spot on. You have to spend your time somewhere, so you might as well. Um, yeah, brilliant. I love the concept of scheduling. I'm going to take it away for myself also. Um, I have another question, um, which is on seeking help. Now, there are relationships which take a toll, and it's not necessarily that the toll is in a manner where where they choose to separate, but it does take a toll on their relationship, and they may need external help. And you of course know that because people come to you. What are the telltale signs that people should seek help in a relationship? What is it that they can do? I know you've touched upon a lot of things, but like, what are the telltale signs? What are some things they can do? And if they feel that nothing's working, then at what stage should they seek out help and what resources are available?
Yeah, and I love to express therapy or help or coaching as not always bad. We'd have a personal trainer in the gym to help us get better. We have an accountant to sort our finances. We have a yoga teachers to help us do back bends. Having a coach, having a relationship therapy is just going to help you get better. And it's in those moments when probably you'll feel really heavy, you'll feel tired, you get into bed at night and you just roll over scrolling on your phone. There's a lot of tension, there's a lot of arguments. You probably feel like housemates paying the mortgage over actually being lovers. This is a great one to, is like, okay, to bring that to your awareness and just know that there is something different on the other side. I see so much women or humans stay in relationships just to keep the peace and just to think, okay, I'm not going to stand on eggshells. But what this does, it slowly eats away at us inside, slowly eats away at the environment for the children. Then is that healthy? And so it's like noticing this. You might not be in the space ready where you want to go into a coaching or therapy session. Can you watch a YouTube video together? Can you? I have a date night lounge with a range of exercises that they can join. Choose an exercise, go for a date night, have some fun, and becoming aware of this because what we're choosing, we choose what we choose. If we're not choosing, then we're not, if we're not changing, then if we're not choosing, then we're not changing anything. So it's just like, okay, we're in these same patterns. Is this really how I want to be feeling? Or is this a way to be like, okay, I really miss those times I was close with my partner. There's a lot going on right now, but how can I lean in? And then I guess on the bigger scheme of things, is like if months, years go past and nothing is changing, I kind of look at this like, like a rowing boat or a canoe or a kayak. You've just got one oar and the other person is not rowing and you're just going round in circles. And you can only go round in circles so much until you start pulling your hair out and you're thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? 5 years have gone by and you just realize that you haven't had that intimacy, you haven't had that connection. It's like, do I really want to be spending the next 5 years of my life like this? So it's looking and feeling. Like we can feel it in relationships. Women especially feel the discomfort, feel that this isn't right. Men would be more in the logic, noticing it's like, does this feel good to me? Am I going to sleep happy? Am I waking up happy? Or am I constant in that drained energy? And then from that, knowing that therapy or coaching is going to amplify the experience. And in everyone that I work with, we have a lot of fun doing it. Like I pride myself in light-hearted humor because I know myself how heavy and how hard relationships can be. And so, yeah, I bring a lot of lightness that helps each other being seen and being heard. But I think the biggest takeaway within that is like if you go too far and you're the only one rowing the boat, we're just looping in circles. And then at some stage, we've got to get out to keep on moving through for the better of ourselves and also the children.
So, l- without sounding too Pinteresty, like, what are the top five signs, or if you have 10, like, which would, sound alarm bells to people that, okay, I need to take control or start working at my relationship. So, based on your experience, what are the telltale signs that you can tell people to become aware of sooner?
Yeah, so it's one top one is when someone is constantly pulling away. So you're coming to the relationship, with love, want to help, and the other person is pulling away. That's a big sign. Sexless marriages, sexless relationships when you've gone months without sex. Look, every relationship at stages is different, obviously before and after pregnancy. But if like you have couples and clients come to me, it's like, hey, we haven't had sex in 2 years, and I'm like, okay, one is wanting, but the other one isn't. I'm like, well, this is probably something that we want to be working on. So that would be another one. Yeah, the emotional withdrawal and probably control. So if one person in the relationship has got a lot of control, such as control over who you speak to, control over using your phone, always checking your messages, not allowing you to go out, not allowing you to do anything, that is a sign of like, okay, this isn't healthy in my relationship. Another one would be, I guess, the guilt comes in if someone is feeling too much guilt and it's getting to a space of being unhealthy in the relationship. This is when probably you would kind of like want to seek help, because feeling that guilt isn't supporting you and it isn't supporting others in the relationship as well. And then I guess another one big one in that is arguments. Are you all constantly having arguments and vicious cycles around the same thing? So no matter what you have done, every time this happens, an argument comes. Is that healthy? Is this argument serving us? And something I'd love to throw in there is just like, in a relationship, you want to be teammates. You want to be working together. If there's a constant argument, why are we putting ourselves into this? But the reality is, with all those things that I've just shared, it can be time, it can come over time that we don't even know ourselves that this is happening. So it's like you've got, when that self-awareness comes in, or just having a check-in with yourself. How am I feeling? How's my relationship? How's my home life? And like, okay, this has been going on for a long time. Why am I still in this loop? And every time I'm coming towards my partner, but he's avoiding the conversation or we're arguing, I just know within myself that this is not good for my heart and my environment. Then that's when, you'd want to reach out. And then ideally, if, both people would reach together. I find it a little, I find it hard when I'm working with clients when only one is committed to working forward, because we can do all this work and all this growth, but the other person is staying back here. That's when you have to really self-reflect, is like, okay, is this relationship and the structure that I'm in supporting me, or is it diminishing us?
That's great. So again, I'm just summarizing for people who joined midway. So we discussed, to start off with, we discussed on, what are the reasons why people grow apart after a baby arrives. And it's predominantly because a new baby has arrived, there are hormonal changes, your life has just taken a new shift entirely. Then we discussed about the micro moments, which is your favorite I love you moments, where you find 5 minutes in your schedule during the day and you just communicate to each other. I love you about this. I love this about you. And then you also mentioned about scheduling your intimate moments, because we schedule literally everything in our life. So if we are serious about working for a relationship, then we should schedule that. And you also mentioned how important it is for us to be able to express without resentment, which can be hard to communicate, hard to use the right words, but you advise that we use or practice the words that we want to use in front of a mirror, and then we use, I am feeling like this, I would like this from you, I would like this done to me, and express it in that manner. And you also mentioned how to manage the guilt, wherein you're choosing to spend time so that you can recharge the batteries of your relationship. And then we touched upon the fact that if there is help required, how do we sense when to check for that help and when to reach out? And it is okay to ask for help. Now, before I jump into the chat for questions, and if there are any questions, please put in the chat so that I can ask Katy. And this is my last question. Um, Katy, is there a roadmap that you can recommend to people? Because people start in a relationship like, they're Romeo Juliet, they're lovers, always will be in love, and then life happens, and then there are peaks and troughs, right? What is, because you worked with clients across different age brackets and different relationship. Um, so what I want to understand is, what is like a good roadmap that people can aspire to in their journey, say from today to, or from a certain age or a relationship start point to say if they wish to be forever in love, like grow old together? What does that look like?
I would say on that is keep adding fuel to the fire. So at any moment, no matter the stage of the relationship, adding in those micro moments, adding in a little bit of connection and adding in a little spice and safety. That is but on the grander scheme. And then I'm going to refer it back to what I shared at the start was seasons. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. It's really easy for us to comprehend and understand what a season is. If you notice that you're in a season of your life and your winter has been taken 3 years, this is a moment. It's like, okay, we've been in this winter phase for 3 years. We probably need to bring a bit of spring into it. What is that? What does that look like? And how are we going to bring this in? And yeah, that's probably the easiest way for people to understand. And the roadmap or is looking at your seasons. Have I been too long in this? Have we gone too long without intimacy? Have we been putting too much time and effort into this basket? Do we want to come over to this basket? It's probably the best way to the analogy that I would love to share. And another one is like also looking at a newborn baby. So it takes time to conceive. It takes time to grow. Then the baby comes out and then the baby grows over time. These are all different seasons as well. Having this in the mental when we reframe it is like, okay, we're in this phase of our life right now. How can we implement and go through those cycles just as we've done previously? I think that the easiest thing to say in that is it's like it's easy to forget. It's just easy to forget and to go through life, but keep coming back to that couple's time, protecting your couple's time so that keep adding that fuel to the fire, and that's going to help you. It's like the basic maintenance that can grow over time.
All right, I know I said that was the last question, but I'm going to make the most of you being here. So you did give us the exercise of micro moments, and you also gave us the exercise of, how to practice. Is there, like, give us three more exercises? I won't ask for more. Give us three more exercises so people have something in their kitty to use at different points of time. What would that be for people to bring in that spice back into their relationship?
Yeah. One of my favorite ones I love is a sensual massage. So it's really easy to get into bed, to scroll on the phones. Instead, can you have that massage oil at the side of your bed? So when you get in, it's like, oh, hey, babe, look, we've got that massage oil. Get that massage oil out and start giving each other a massage. The physical touch boosts that oxytocin. We feel safe. We feel connected. That, if it wants to, can lead into more intimacy. And if it stays as it is, that is also perfect. Another one I would say was like throughout the day, and this is where couples obviously were working, is adding in that flirty teenage texting again. So it's like, hey, babe, do you remember that time when or I can't wait for you to get home tonight and we can do this, or I really want to wear this outfit for you. I like that little sentence in the day. Imagine your partner reads that there at work. Oh my gosh, like that fun, that flavor comes back again. So that is
Yeah.
definitely one I would add in. We did the appreciation and I love exercise. And probably the next one would be the 30-second hug. And so this is so simple. When you get home from work, before going to work at any moments of the day, it's really quick to just like, if you give your partner a hug, so a kiss, but intentionally having a 30-second hug. So you're standing there, you're connecting to each other, you remember when what love felt, you're feeling that connection with yourself and your partner, that naturally your body is going to soften. For a woman or anyone who've had a busy day at work, you just want to be like, oh, I can just relax now. 30 seconds goes a long way when you are a mum, you've got kids, you've got the work, you've got the dinner, you've got a lot going on. But the 30-second hug has really made a big difference in my clients.
That is brilliant. I'm going to practice that 30-second hug with my partner.
Perfect.
All right. We'll open the floor for questions and we'll check if people have any questions. Let me see if I need to unmute people. Okay, I think people can unmute themselves. So if there are any questions, please put them in the chat. We have Katie here for another 10 minutes.
And no question is ever too much or too wrong, because the reality is when we think that question, there's 100 other people thinking the same thing. It just often takes that one little curiosity to open that up. Can couples reframe time away, whether from children?
Not as neglect. Yeah. Not as neglect. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is what we spoke about a little bit previously around the guilt. Like it's about reframing that time away, which we could see in our minds as neglect, into time with, or time to refill that cup. Like we need to give that time back to ourselves, because if our cup is half empty, then we're giving a half empty cup to others, and just reframing it in the mind of like, and just when you're coming to those moments of like, okay, this is happening, I feel like I'm neglecting my partner or neglecting the children, but reframe it's like, okay, this is not time away, this is time for.
There's a question, any tips on how we can ensure extended family members help partners communicate better? Now, this is this is a bit of tricky question, that you're getting other people involved, but this is where the whole concept of helping, that it takes a village to raise a family. And sometimes older people also come with a mindset of now you have a child, you need to spend all your time raising children because it's a gap in how we want to work on our relationship as well as the children vis-a-vis how older people may have seen their relationships and raising children. So yes, that's a very good question.
Mm. On this, yes, a very, very, very good question. I think two things that are really coming up is we can only control ourselves. We can't control others. And in those moments where it gets heated or the conversations, the communication doesn't go the way we want to, just remember this is their lived experience and I can't control them. How can I regulate and how can I communicate myself better to meet that? And the other one is like setting boundaries. We all have the mother-in-laws, the parents, the sisters-in-laws. People can like often, I would say be mean, but get in the way a little bit. And then we kind of want to be like, okay, how can we protect that time for us? What does that time together mean? How does that time together for us look? And how can we set those boundaries so this time for us isn't kind of getting in the way? But how can partners make them understand that it's not so? And that what I said that on the selfish part, it comes back to it's not being so selfish, it's being sustainable. It's just like one uncomfortable conversation might feel uncomfortable, may feel a little bit sticky, but the more that you can own, this is my life, this is my family, then that helps on the long run over just kind of that short-term window of leaning in a way.
Thank you. Let's see if there are any more questions coming in.
And another one on that, I think for both the questions there as well, it's just like we often forget as we get into adults, we forget to have fun. And so a lot of my coaching, a lot of my work comes back to fun. So it's like, how can you get your family involved in fun as well? Whether that like, time zone games, whatever that be, a karaoke night, because the more fun and laughter you're having, it just soothes everything else as well.
Yeah, laughter. That's why
It's
they
so
say it's the best
underrated.
medicine. Yeah. Yeah. It's
So underrated.
underrated. That's true. Okay. Any other questions? Let's see. Okay, I have a question, Katie. Now that my children are a little older, they think they own me. And then, sometimes they're like, they'll tell my husband, like, you can't have mama. Mama belongs to us. So, what are ways that you can, like, early on introduce this concept to children right from young age? Of course, they won't understand, but slowly, gradually, where they see that mom and dad need time too, and they don't see it as mom and dad are our property and they belong to us and they should spend every living, breathing moment with us.
Yeah, lovely, amazing question. I always bring this one back to love. And so sharing it with I can love you, I can love your sister, your brother, I can love your mum, and I can love your daddy. For each child as well. You can love mummy and you can love daddy. And separate, like not separating, but understanding that we can all love. And sharing that as like sometimes the love will with mum will look like this, and sometimes love will dad will look like this. And sometimes when we've got love together, it will look like this. And just really, I guess, segmenting it into a way of what love is to you. So, for example, love to mum and dad is cuddling and kissing. Love with the children is spending quality time together, or, like I'm doing an activity, and just really allowing them to notice what love is to them. It's like, okay, how do you want to love mummy today? Do you want to give her a hug? Do you want to do an activity with her? How can mummy love her son today? And bringing it in that frame is always coming back to love. And it's really beautiful as well to implement love from such an understanding of love, of what love means to them from a young age.
That is good. And, they say those three words aren't said enough. So, the more you say it, the more it becomes a normal part of the vocabulary and something that people are like, oh, that's love. That's okay. So that's good. Thank you so much, Katie. I mean, it was amazing. All your advice and wisdom on relationship building was phenomenal. And I loved all the exercises, all the micro tips, especially, all those flirty things that you spoke about. It was like a walk down the memory lane for me. And also everything that you said about how to remember, how to put it in words, and this new relationship that is formed when a child enters into the equation and a new family unit is formed. And just to summarize, it's all about awareness, honesty, and tiny moments of reconnection. And thank you for your time, your advice, and your wisdom, and everything that you shared with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. So, for those of you who would like to avail Katie's amazing services, we will be sending an email on details on how to connect with Katie, if you wish to, and then feel free to follow her on her socials as well. And if you're looking to strengthen your parenting muscles to become a more mindful parent and raise a confident, independent child, then Montessori mindful parenting courses can be very helpful too. And with that, we sign off. Thank you so much for your time, and we hope you had a good time, and we hope you have a good time ahead. Thank you, Katie, and thank you, everybody. See you.
Bye.